Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We thank you for being with us tonight. After we get our agenda adopted here, explain the sort of procedure of what you can expect tonight, and then we'll get into our discussion. So is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Motion and second to adopt the agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Okay, so this is a workshop of the Gainesville City Commission to discuss what is being called the Royal Park Multifamily Development. This was requested by the commission after the last time this was discussed before us. So first of all, I want everyone to understand that if you would like to speak tonight, there are sign-up cards on this table right here and this table right where the officer is over here. And so you'll just fill out one of those cards and hand it to our clerk, Ms. Kessler, down here at the end, and then she will call people up to speak in the order that she received. She also received sign up for folks that wanted to speak online, so we'll take those as well. And then after anybody who signed up that's present or signed up online, we'll go to Adam with people that are calling in and waiting on the phones. The purpose of this meeting is to allow folks in the surrounding areas, really anybody is welcome, but mainly the folks in the surrounding areas to this development, to share their ideas and concerns with the developer. The developer of the project is in attendance and participating with us this evening. We did reach out to Florida Department of Transportation and ask if they would participate, but they declined to do so, so they are not in attendance, nor are they participating in this meeting. I will also ask either Mr. McDermott, who works in our city attorney's office, or Mr. Persons, who's our Director of Sustainable Development, to sort of share with everybody where we are on the timeline of this project. And so everybody has that up-to-date information. As far as our information that we're going to present, it is relatively brief. So Mr. Calderon from the Department of Sustainable Development will give a brief presentation. We also have some of our folks from the Department of Mobility to talk about some traffic signals and pedestrian safety improvements that are planned. Then we will see if there are any questions from the commissioners based on any of that. Then we will open it up for public comment. When we do get to public comment, again, Ms. Kessler will call everybody up one by one. You'll get 3 minutes to share your thoughts. When you have 1 minute left, a little yellow light will come on. And then when the red light comes on, your time is expired, and I'll invite the next person to come up and share their thoughts. I want to be very clear with everybody of what this meeting is and what it is not. It is an opportunity for folks to share their ideas and concerns. It is not a meeting where the commission will take action. First of all, because it's a workshop and we are prohibited from taking action at a workshop. We don't take votes, we don't make motions. Second is because this project is what's called a by right development, which it means that the developer is not asking for any special consideration or permissions, and that means it does not come back before the commission. He or she, I'm not sure quite who the developer is, but they do the projects within the boundaries and sort of rules set forth in our code, land development code, and our adopted ordinances. And so I don't want anybody to think that the commission has some sort of authority or power to intervene and prevent that from happening. We do not. And what we can do is use our convening authority to bring all of you together with the developer, so they know what your concerns are, and they can hopefully incorporate those into the final development plan. So with that, I'm going to invite Mr. Calderon, who I can see you on Zoom, to share your brief presentation with us, and then we'll move on to Ms. Leisner with the Department of Mobility.
Honorable Mayor, members of the Commission, good evening. Lawrence Calderon, Department of Sustainable Development. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. You made my job so much easier with your description. So all I will do here is say that the applicant voluntarily submitted an application to vacate 2 plats, which were approved by you and forwarded to the Alachua County Commission for their handling, and we have done so. And at that time, a neighborhood workshop was scheduled, which we're having today. This is the subject property on the right side here, and a closer look at it. This is Newberry Northwest 39th Road, Newberry Road, and on the east side is Northwest 36th Drive, and further up north is Northwest 8th Avenue. This is the zoning on the subject property. RMF 7, which allows 12 units per acre, 267 units. They're proposing 122, and you can see the surrounding zoning. Access will be provided here, and at this point, we do not have access here because there are lots of wetlands on this area. And this is the proposed development, which includes those buildings as shown here. As you can see, most of this area is wetland adjacent to the developed part of the city. And with this, Mr. Mayor, I will turn it over to you. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer. We have a crew of city employees who have reviewed this, and they're here to answer any questions. We've not approved the development, but it's in its final stages of review and should be approved anytime within the next week or 2. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Calderon. So Ms. Leitner, are you with us? Or Ms. McCready? I'm not sure who was available to talk about some of the traffic signalization and pedestrian safety improvements that were planned?
Mr. Mayor, Scott Wright with the Department of Transportation. I think that would actually be me because I did review this this development as it came through the process.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
And just to provide a quick overview, I guess. You know, as with any development of a certain size, we require a traffic study, and we did require a traffic study for this project because it did trip that threshold. We evaluated that traffic study, reviewed it, and found there to be no significant effects on the existing roadway system. There was one signal adjustment at the intersection of 39th Road and University Avenue or Newberry Avenue. And that will be made at the time that the CO of the development is approved. And essentially that signal timing adjustment will just make it so there's no negative impact at that intersection. It will increase the green time on 39th Road, so it'll be easier to exit onto Newberry. And as you can see, there were 2 access points to the development, one to the east, and then one to 39th Road to the west. And this is a good thing generally because when you have more than one access point, you can distribute traffic that will come from this development. And I know there were some safety concerns expressed by the neighborhood to the east, and I spoke to several citizens there about some sidewalk requests. So we've added a couple of sidewalk requests in that neighborhood to our list, and hope to get to those at some point in the future. And that, I guess, is a summary.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wright. And then, am I to understand the developer also had some information they wanted to share? I have no control over that. I'm a little warm myself. Yep, I'm a little warm myself. It's usually either too cold or too hot, so we'll try to get it too cold. We have two settings. Mr. Persons, you indicated that the developer might have some information they wanted to share.
Mr. Mayor, I think that's my understanding. I'm not sure if they're there in person or if they're on the Zoom meeting, though.
Sure, yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
And I'm one of the development partners, and we're here to answer some specific questions about the community, if there are any, and really just going to listen in and be a interested observer at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. So what I'll do as we get to comments from folks here and folks calling in, if you have a question, a specific question, I'll write it down. I don't want to use your time up answering the question, so I'll just keep a running list of any and all questions. And then once we finish with public comment, then we'll go through those one by one. It might be a question the developer needs to answer. It might be our city attorney's staff or our director of sustainable development. So we'll kind of figure that out as the questions arise. But I will keep a list of those as they come up. Okay, Commissioner A. Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. For mobility staff, you said there were some sidewalks that were added to the list. Which ones were that? Is that Northwest Fifth Avenue and which other streets?
Mr. Wright.
My apologies, I did not catch that question.
You mentioned some streets or some sidewalks are being added to our project plan or our capital plan. What streets are those on? Is that Northwest Fifth Avenue or is it other streets?
Yeah, based on feedback from some of the citizens we spoke to there in the neighborhood in Woodland Terrace, and then additionally just kind of our own analysis, it seemed like the two streets that would make the most sense to add sidewalks to would be Northwest Fifth Avenue, and that would be essentially from 34th Street to the current terminus.
Okay.
And then Northwest 36th Street would be the other one. That one's a little trickier. It's got a unique configuration. So there's probably going to be some, feasibility analysis we have to do there as well. But those would be the two sidewalks that we added to the list.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Ariola.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank everyone participating, including the commission for hosting the workshop. I think this is a really good model for how we can have community conversations regarding changes and a lot of changes happening in Gainesville. But this is the kind that I think that we can be proud of. So I'm glad to hear the sidewalk requests. I was going to ask, we're probably going to have to do a survey at least because, there's just not a lot of space in some of the roadways, but I think that there is enough right-of-way for us to have some upgrades and make some really good additions. I'll try to speak up. Sorry. Multimodal safety is another concern of mine. I think that being in the neighborhood, you notice a lot of folks riding bicycles, a lot of folks walking. Now the e-scooters are coming into play. So I think that we have to really prioritize the through streets in the neighborhood being complete streets and being safe for all multimodal transportation. So I think that's something else I'd like to add to the cost analysis whenever staff goes through that exercise. Another concern I wanted to address was the walkable connectivity with the plaza to the south for the development. I think it would just be a huge missed opportunity for not just the folks that are going to live there, But really for the businesses there, if there's not a connectivity, and really I think the only time to do it is when you're building it. At any other time, I think it would just be cost prohibitive. Another request, which is disappointing. FDOT didn't want to participate in this workshop. I didn't think that was asking too much, but I would like for us to ask if they would consider a crosswalk on Northwest 5th Avenue to the Loblolly Nature Park. It's just very dangerous right now. Folks don't have a crosswalk to get to the city park, and that's a state road. So as much as I'd like for us to go out there and build the crosswalk ourselves, the state would take exception to that. But without them here today, I can't say that to them directly. So what I would like for us to do is to add that to our list of requests, because I think that would improve a lot of concerns that people have about those. So I'm eager to hear everybody else. Thank you for taking the time.
Okay, thank you. So once again, if you joined us late, if you would like to speak, there are little pieces of paper in the plastic boxes on either side of the chamber here. You just fill out your name and give it to our clerk, Ms. Kessler here, and she will get you in the queue. Again, everybody, we prioritize equity here, so everybody gets the same 3 minutes. When you have 1 minute remaining, then the yellow light will come on, and then when the red light comes on, it means your time has expired, and I'll invite the next person, actually the clerk will invite the next person up to speak. We also want to make sure that regardless of your sort of perspective or views, this is a chamber that prioritizes civility, and so we want to treat everyone with equal respect. We don't allow cheering or jeering, and we just want to hear everybody's comments and share everyone. We want everyone to feel like they can share their thoughts in a free and open manner without any sort of reprisal. So if we can just follow those basic rules of decency and civility, which I know that you all will. I just feel obliged to say it whenever we have these big meetings. It will work out better for all of us. Okay, so with that, Madam Clerk, we'll invite our first person up to speak.
The first speaker signed up to speak is Reverend Clark. Is Reverend Clark here with us?
Welcome.
Well, I was just actually debating in my mind whether I'd speak at all, because after listening to the opening comments and so forth, it doesn't seem like anything I could say is really going to affect anything. I am opposed to it. I can go on record for that. What I'm opposed to is opening up Fifth Avenue, that where it's now terminated. It just seems that traffic in and out of a large complex like this into my neighborhood that I grew up in is a bad idea for a lot of the reasons that y'all have already spoken about. So I don't need 3 minutes. Have a blessed day.
Okay, thank you. You too. And for all of you, the developer is here, so I don't want anybody to think that their comments will be falling on any deaf ears, even though this is not a decision that will come back to the commission. Certainly the developer has a certain degree of latitude in what the final project does and doesn't look like, and what he can and can't do to try to address some of those concerns. And so I want to make sure everybody feels open in sharing what those ideas, constructive ideas, or what those concerns might be, so he's able to take those into consideration. Madam Clerk?
Next is Megan Walker.
And who will be after Ms. Walker?
Next will be James Radke.
Okay, we'll try to keep it 2 ahead just so everyone's prepared.
Thank you. I actually had the procedural question. Out of respect for the time limit, we coordinated our comments, so I was hoping to be able to go back to back. Okay. It's no secret that Gainesville is desperate desperately in need of affordable housing in areas of the city that are convenient to goods, services, and multimodal transportation options. I support the efforts to provide that type of housing, including in my own neighborhood, but only when it's done in a way that respects and cares for both the new residents who will be welcomed into the community, as well as the existing residents who have built the bedrock of that community. The Royal Park Apartments will serve as an example and a precedent for future affordable housing development in Gainesville, whether it is done properly or done poorly. So I suggest we take the time and effort to do it properly. But if we place new residents in harm's way and sacrifice the character and safety of existing communities to rubber stamp a development that looks good enough on paper, we'll be making enemies of the very people who could be our greatest allies and advocates. And each subsequent affordable housing proposal would be met with harsher resistance. Because instead of creating an atmosphere of trust and welcome, where there is enough for everyone, where both assets and burdens are shared fairly, we'll have created an atmosphere of fear and scarcity, where people are desperate to protect what they have for fear of losing it. We will have created a zero-sum game that pits members of our community against each other and that pits the community against its leaders and developers. So I'm not here to ask you to not approve this development. I'm asking you to do it right, to do it in a way that builds trust and respect for future affordable housing in Gainesville. To that end, I've identified 3 specific problems with the current proposal for this development that need to be addressed. I'll discuss the first of the problems, and then out of respect for this time limit, we'll turn it over to my husband to finish discussing the other items. The first is housing financially vulnerable low-income residents in a floodplain. It is ethically wrong, yet nonetheless common, for people of privilege to use environmental regulations designed to protect the vulnerable within our community to exclude those very people from the spaces that the privileged value. It is also wrong, yet common, for governments and developers to preferentially place vulnerable people, like those who are low income, in risky locations, like floodplains. These are residents for whom the contents of their homes often represent the majority of their assets and wealth. Yet they are also the least able to afford things like renter's insurance to protect those assets. So if we're going to house vulnerable people in risky locations, we need to protect them, whether that is by proactively providing insurance to replace residents' flood-damaged possessions or by some other means. And going forward, we need to revise our code to require mitigation of flood risks that will evolve over the lifetime of the project. That means incorporating climate change projections rather than relying on static, outdated flood maps that assume a past climate that we will never again experience. Secondly, the proposal routes additional vehicular traffic through Woodland Terrace, causing increased traffic congestion at existing locations. Our code requires that the impact on traffic and level of service be evaluated prior to the approval of a development plan. The required study was performed for the originally proposed connection to Northwest 39th Road near Bartram Woods neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank
I think it's time for the handoff. And if you want to turn your written comments in too, we can take those and get them in the record. Yeah, so if you want to give that to the clerk when you're done, we'll get a copy for
Yes,
everybody.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be happy to do that. Good evening. My name is Jim Radke. I'm obviously Megan Walker-Radke's spouse. Kind of picking off what she said, talking about the traffic. We know the originally proposed connection Northwest 39th Road near Bartram Woods neighborhood, a traffic study was done, but they did not do a traffic study about the traffic that will be coming into our neighborhood. The staff argued that such a study is unwarranted because the impact will be negligible, but I ask, on what evidence? The proposed connection Northwest 5th Ave and Woodland Terrace would connect 50% more dwelling units to the existing street grid. This is a significant increase in a neighborhood surrounded by chronically congested roadways as well as an active school zone. There's only one traffic signal in or out of my neighborhood, and it can take several minutes for a single car to find enough of a break in traffic along the unsignaled congested roadways to turn out of the neighborhood. Trust me, this is a pain point I experience every day. How can we even have a productive conversation about the traffic impact or how to mitigate it when that study has not been done? We don't have the data. If the traffic impact were truly negligible, please do the study, please prove it. If the results of that study show minimal impact on Woodland Terrace, I'll drop my objections. But in the absence of such a study, we must assume a substantial increase in the number of dwelling units served by our neighborhood streets are going to see a correspondingly substantial increase in that traffic. If the city is willing to do a traffic study for Bartram Woods, it can do a traffic study of the traffic in our neighborhood and how it will impact it. So that leads to our third problem is the additional vehicular traffic is proposed to be routed through Woodland Terrace, which is going to worsen the vehicle-pedestrian conflict that we see with the multimodal use of the streets in our neighborhood. My neighborhood has no sidewalks. The streets are narrow, vehicles frequently park on both sides of the road, leaving the middle of the road to be shared by vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists, and children playing. Additional car traffic will disrupt the use and change the character of our neighborhood. So adding more vehicles will have an impact not only on the use of our neighborhood and its character, but also its safety for its residents. We offer two potential thoughts on solutions that could be looked at. One is provide a connection directly to State Road 26, maybe using the parking lot that's directly to the south of the development and using the current curb cut, and there is a light there at that commercial development that could be used. This would require no new curb cuts, and hopefully we wouldn't have to negotiate with the state. But leave bicycle and pedestrian access open on Northwest 5th Avenue. Allow those residents to use the multimodal access to access public transit on Northwest 34th Street, to access the parks, and then make that gateway of emergency vehicle only access, please. The other thing we considered looking at is the north end of Northwest 39th Road could be connected as a right turn only onto Northwest 43rd Street or Northwest 8th Ave, essentially removing that cul-de-sac like road on Northwest 39th Road. Northwest 39th Road is a divided road. It has residential and commercial development, unlike the roads in my neighborhood. I please encourage everyone to consider these and look at these alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Next, we'll have Kathy Ayers.
Welcome.
Thank you for the comments thus far, everyone. I live on 36th Drive, so I'm adjacent. The sidewalk would go down my street, apparently. I'm concerned about flooding. At the end of a fairly moderate rain event, the end of 36th Drive on both ends, the north and south end, is already covered with water. It dissipates over time, but I'm concerned about the extra water that will now be coming into the property from the development over there that's not going to be absorbed by the land. I won't further discuss the traffic things that were just recently discussed, but that is a concern for the use in the neighborhood and how that will shape and disturb the current neighborhood. I have a question that how the density of the property is calculated based for that zoning. Much of the property is a wetlands property. Is the density including that land that cannot be developed in the density calculations, or was it only on the property that can be developed? Because that would make a difference. A goal for the Alachua County is to have sustainable developments. Part of that includes that the positive effects will continue in the foreseeable future. The neighborhoods surrounding, the established neighborhoods surrounding this development are in recovery and they're beginning to thrive again. The currently proposed development for this property, I believe, would adversely impact the positive current trends that are happening in those neighborhoods and would put them under stress. I would love to see that land developed as a park, like Coffrin Park or John McMahon Nature Park, but I doubt that will happen at this point. But what a legacy that would bring for longtime family residents who have owned that property. The name Royal Park already has the name park in it. Well, I can't change everything, but some of the answers to these questions lie in your hands because you make some of the final decisions, whether my neighborhood is going to be stressed or is going to be a success. One more point is the convening of this workshop has errors on it, and I think we should have another
Thank you,
workshop
ma'am. I
done.
apologize for any errors. We'll take a look at that. Madam Clerk?
Next is Maria Jones.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Maria Jones, and I'm sure that you all know who I am because I've been here many times. And I have asked the same question many times, and I have never gotten an answer. And I'm going to ask it yet again. Why did the city of Gainesville engineer sign this form in which they said that proper access was available for that development? And now we're here debating it. This is a question that I have asked repeatedly, and nobody has given me, I've sent emails, I've brought it up here, nobody has given me an answer. Okay, so this is the first thing. The second thing is that I know it's very appealing to have 100% affordable housing, but let's put it this way. The costs of building have gone up in the last 3 years, probably when these costs were calculated. So how is the developer proposed to still maintain his 100% affordability? That's a question for the developer, not for the city. But maybe if the developer is not going to have 100% of affordability, maybe that will decrease your push for this development. Okay? But yes, I do want to know, because if this had not been signed, then those $7 million financing that the Florida Finance Corporation is giving the developer wouldn't have happened. And they can build as development by right. They can build condos if they want to. But that would be on their own penny. And I doubt very much that not public financing, but private financing would finance building in such a dreadful flooded development. And thinking about developments, I live up the street, and my backyard has been tremendously impacted by the rains last year. The city needs to fix that. So a lot of rain that should have gone to that parcel has been infiltrating in my yard and other people's yards. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like an answer.
Yep, your question, John, I did. If y'all will direct your deepest appreciation and kindness to Ms. Malden, who's keeping us safe and clean in between every speaker tonight. So if you direct your deepest kindness and thanks to Ms. Malden, who's keeping us safe in between every speaker tonight. We don't cheer or jeer, but I just wanted you to recognize how hard she works for all of us on our behalf. Ms. Kessler?
Steve Herman.
I was here to answer any questions for later.
Okay, thank you for being available. Ma'am, we'll answer questions at the end, as I said at the beginning. We'll get all the questions and then answer them at the end, so we don't take away from anybody's time.
Jeffrey Kiss.
I'm here to answer questions as well.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry? Okay. Okay, I don't think so. Julie Anspach.
Welcome.
Hello, I'm Julie Anspach. I live on 39th Road, up at the top of the hill, so I'd be the second one from the end trying to get out. And it is very hard to get out of our street. And I have a question. Has anybody heard about another housing development being built at the top of the hill on 39th Road? 220 units at the dead end of my road? In the retention pond, yeah. So, okay, well, if that is built, that's going to make it even worse on 39th Road. And even if you change the lights, I walk and bike the neighborhood daily. I have to wait for 3 to 5 cars to go through the red lights when it's not gridlock. During gridlock, people pull into the middle of the intersection, and then traffic stops. 39th Road can't get out because everybody's sitting in the middle of the intersection on Newberry Road. And I can sit through 3, 4 lights with that gridlock if there's a couple cars in front of me. So a different traffic plan would be good. And maybe the housing development at the top of 39th Road is just a rumor, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Judith Jones.
Welcome.
If you put sidewalks on Fifth Avenue, you will destroy 5 mature trees. And 2 of those were planted by the city. Now, that's the least of my concerns. I'm allergic to car fumes. I'm allergic to a lot of things, but car fumes. I'll be sick all the time. The heavy equipment coming down that street when you start the build, it's just insane that they're going to be doing this. And as far as affordable housing goes, our neighborhood is affordable housing. All over it, there are some rental properties. And I understand, I may be wrong about this, it's going to be only 10% affordable in this new development. So what's the point? I think that whatever we say is just wind, doesn't make, as you say. But I would like to show a show of hands. How many of you have actually visited Fifth Avenue, Northwest Fifth Avenue? How many of you?
We all have, we grew up there.
You've all been there? Did you come at 3 o'clock or 8 o'clock? Did you see? Did it take you 30 minutes to get there? It's just crazy.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Alex, I apologize about the last name, Taraboshia.
That's, oh, I'm sorry.
Welcome.
Ready? Good evening, guys. I've spoken on multiple issues in the past, so I won't reiterate them. But I agree with everybody on the traffic, affordability being 10% of the units, flooding issues, environmental issues. I'm really attached to the owls and the wildlife back there, and I understand from the studies that none of it's actually protected, and that's okay. It's development by right. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. The question that I would really like the city and the developer to answer tonight for me is why I've never been notified by the developer. I feel like we are hastily trying to have these meetings and solve these issues that should have been thoughtful, should have been planned in a year ago or back in 2019 when they were first proposing this. And all the, the ordinance, I can't remember the number, but I have it on multiple emails that I've sent to the city, states that because my home is within 400 feet, and if you jump the fence, I'm on the property, I should have received a notification. I should have been invited to the neighborhood workshop in March of, I believe, 2020 or 2021. I received nothing. And I have asked multiple times by email to provide me with documentation as to why I was not notified. I mean, I don't read the newspaper. I look at my news through my phone like everybody in this era. And I really want that question answered, because I feel like I'm trying to wrap my head around something that I can't stop and that I can't have a say in, which I would love to have a say in. And we're trying to do it last minute, and I would have rather been here last year when we could have had these conversations and been thoughtful about it the entire time. I think making this community, because I think it's going in and it's right of development, but making it so it's not parasitic and making it so that it's symbiotic is really important. If we could have walkability, it would be huge. If I could actually walk to Almonds to pick up my car and cut through there and go into the, the development and cut through, it'd save me 10 minutes when I do that. If I could actually get to the FedEx store by foot, and if I could get to go grab a burrito by foot, or the movie theater, you guys basically hear what I'm saying, but it would make my neighborhood better if I could do that. I would love it if Northwest 36th Drive was protected and we had fire access only. That'd be great. I don't know that that's going to happen, but that would be great because it would keep the kids safe. That's the bottleneck at 8 and 3. That's what they're getting at there. And there are kids out all the time. So if you could answer that question for me tonight, that would be great. I just want to know why I was not notified, and why my only notification, formal notification for this project was the meeting for tonight, which was already mentioned tonight was incorrect on the thing. So, so please answer those. I would really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next will be Ronnie Lovler.
Well,
Welcome.
you know I'm Ronnie Lovler. I know a lot of you sitting across from me. So I have much of what I would have to say has been said already, but I would like somebody to explain to me why this is being called a workshop when it's not. It's a done deal. The decisions have been made. I can't input, whatever I input, you'll listen to it, but it's not gonna make any difference. For me, a workshop is when we convene together, we talk about something, we exchange ideas. We might not agree, but we have an exchange. I'm just being given a chance to speak briefly, to say what my concerns are. Another concern I have, and this is major, I got no notice of this meeting by the city. My notice came from the Facebook group that we formed. That's how I learned about it. Not from the city, nothing in the mail, don't blame it on the US Postal Service. If I wasn't in touch with the Facebook group, I would be at home doing something else right now. I would not be here. So I don't think there's any good reason for me not to know about it. I'm concerned about the wetlands. I lived in my neighborhood, which happens to be Bartram Woods, for quite a while. Previously, I lived in Hawthorne Estates when it was called something else. And when I lived there then, they actually had a rowboat on the property for when there was flooding. And I saw it used. It was used, so I'm concerned about the wetlands. I'm really concerned about the traffic patterns. I believe there's going to be almost 200 units. 200 times 2 would be like 400 cars. There's going to be like at least 2 cars per unit. Where are these cars going to be parked? Where are they going to be going? It would be helpful if there could be some access through the Royal Park commercial property, which my understanding is that that's not being considered as a possibility because the owners of the Royal Park property have to give permission, and my understanding is that that's not an option. So I'm concerned about access for those of us who live there now. The way I'm feeling is I can probably just decide that I'll just stay home for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years because it won't be really easy to get out unless I walk, if I want to walk past all the construction. So I just think there should have been more real discussion with the community when there was time to have some real input. And I'm learning about it now at the 11th hour. So, you know, I'd like to get some answers to what I should have had answers to before coming here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Alvaro Saraceda.
Good evening. My name is Alvaro Cereceda. I live in Hawthorne Reserve in the building C, as in Zebra. This is a building that is right in the entrance through 39 Road. And I wanted to express one thing first. When I do things to be proud of, I don't hurt people. You guys are hurting people by doing this, Mr. Arreola. Thank you for saying you're proud, but we are hurting people with this. I want to tell you why. Number one, the property of ours is going to go down. Somebody's going to pay, mine. That diminishment of my value, somebody's going to pay. I don't know who, but somebody's going to pay. Number two, put any word before this development except sustainable. This is not sustainable. You are cutting up hundreds of trees, displacing a lot of life, wildlife, and drying wetland. How can that be sustainable? This is not sustainable. This is the easy way out. And you should thought about this before doing it. You guys gotta do a better job in notifying the citizens. We pay our taxes, and to mail this thing on the 8th and be lucky to get it yesterday, in my mail yesterday, is a shame. You should be more proactive and more efficient to notify us about these things. Now, specifically on the entrance of 39 Road. I don't know how in the world they're gonna do an entrance of two-way street in there. There is no way that safely 2 cars are gonna go back and forth there. I can assure you that, and I don't have to be an engineer, I measure it already. It's gonna be a constant accident cost. That's what you're gonna do with that entrance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be Lori Cantor.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Laura Cantor, and I've been here before, and my concerns are still the same. Fifth Avenue is too small of an area to put sidewalk. You're going to take property away from people to make the sidewalk. One of the sides has drainage ditch. Our around the block is on Fifth Avenue, and we live on 7th Avenue. It's going to cause traffic on 7th Avenue too. There's no sidewalks there either. We bike, we take our grandkids, and that's what I'm more concerned about is my grandkids walking. I want to know why they're using 5th Avenue. That is not a proper access. When you're on 34th Street trying to turn in to our, we have to sit there and wait like at 5 o'clock. Have you guys been there at 5 o'clock? Sometimes we're waiting 5 minutes just to turn into our neighborhood at that time. 5th Avenue and 7th Avenue at that time is horrid. There's certain times a day when the school gets out, you have to sit and wait. I don't understand how anybody can say that's an access road. That's gonna be okay. It is not, it's not okay. You're gonna destroy our family neighborhood. We've been there 50 years. It's a great neighborhood. It's a family friendly. It's even more family now. People have brought housing in there because it is reasonable. My grandkids, I'm worried about because you're destroying our roundabout. You're not looking at that. I want to know what traffic people said it was okay that was an accident. That's my question. Why you think that's okay to destroy our neighborhood and our children? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Dorothy Sullivan.
I'm Dorothy Sullivan. I live on 39th Road, and you've heard all the traffic issues, and it's a terrible, we wait all the time to pull out of that road. And I don't know how access on our road would help that development. I also feel like that if you really cared about the environment and the wetlands, you wouldn't develop that because there are a lot of animals there. There are deer, there are turkeys, there are pileated woodpeckers if you've ever walked back there. It's a beautiful area actually, except it is wet. And I feel like if you cared about the environment, you wouldn't be developing it. And that's all I have to say. But I guess I want to say one other thing. I guess just like everybody here, I feel exasperated because this decision, it sounds like, is made. And no matter what we say, you're going to develop it anyway. So, and I think that's a shame.
Thank you.
Next is Judy Lacasio.
Welcome.
Good evening, Judy Lacasio. I have lived in Bartram Woods for 25 years. That is right off of 39th Road. I have a business right outside on Newbury Road, also 25 years. Early on, I got exasperated with the traffic light getting out on Newbury Road from 39th Road, and I called the city, who informed me that it is a Florida Department highway. So I contacted them, and nothing happened. Finally, I made some connections, and after several calls, was told that, Judy, we have put something that trips the traffic, lets us know that cars are sitting there to get out on Newberry Road, but it takes 4 minutes. 4 minutes to get out on Newberry Road. So imagine compiling all the new traffic that we will have. So number one, traffic's gonna be ridiculous. Number two, because I write insurance in the neighborhood, Concordia is in a flood zone.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, if you'll pause the clock. Y'all, if you need to have a conversation, if you'll just take it out in the hall, it's just very distracting to the person. We're trying to listen to the speaker. All right, please continue.
Concordia is in a flood zone. I'm concerned that we are building in a flood zone. I'd like to know the staff person who said that he spoke with somebody. I'd like to know who that somebody is that's supposed to make traffic more efficient at the traffic light. Because I've done my darndest over the past 25 years. And I'll tell you what, I don't go to that traffic often if I don't have to. There's other ways to sneak through places I should probably not be. And actually, there's a little roadway to my office because a nice gentleman that lives there lets me, we go back and forth just to avoid going to that traffic light. We can get out on Newberry Road. I can be in the back of my office complex in 2 minutes. But if I had to go to the lights, forget it. So traffic concerns me, flood zone concerns me, the environment of the animals concerns me. And what also concerns me is, from hearing everybody speak, this sounds like a done deal. It sounds like the city of Gainesville has swept this under the carpet without giving the residents the opportunity to speak. It sort of feels like this is just playing nice, but nothing really is going to happen. So I'm very concerned, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Next is Jim Sullivan.
Welcome.
Yeah, my name is Jim Sullivan. I've lived in the neighborhood, I don't know, I guess 22 years. And my first question is, do you folks answer any of these questions? Does it even matter to you?
Yes, sir. If you might come in a little late. We're going to take all the questions, then we'll get them answered after we compile them all. So at the end, we'll get them all answered.
But it's pretty much a done deal, right?
I'll explain that again, but yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, traffic is one big, huge thing. Judy says it takes 4 minutes. That's if you're the first car. And the cars get backed up at that intersection, especially at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock to about 5:30, and also in the morning. And on football days, you can't even get out. And so I don't know how you could possibly put an intersection in there going on to that intersects with 39th Road, as this gentleman spoke of, and handle the traffic. There's no way you can do it. It's going to make it incredibly worse, which is going to drop the property values of all our homes in that neighborhood. But I don't imagine that probably matters to you folks, or you would have had more open forum on this and had a real workshop, maybe last year or the year before when this thing started. And, you know, of course, there's wetland issues. That whole area back there is a wetland. There's pileated woodpeckers and some other endangered species that live back there. And I see the city of Gainesville, you know, saying in Alachua County, oh, we're environmentally friendly, but when it comes to the money and putting in a development that's going to benefit the developers, it seems like that takes precedent over our property values. And I don't think that's right. And how are you going to handle emergency services when you got all this traffic congestion there? How are you going to handle that if there's an emergency? It's to put a road, an entrance onto 39th Road from that area. You can't even hardly get back from 39th Road if I want to go to Ballyhoo, for example, which is right by the edge of Royal Park. It takes, sometimes I have to wait over a minute just to make the left turn off 39th Road. And at the top of 39th Road, it's blocked off. There's no exit at the top of 39th Road. So in my view, it's a terrible idea all the way around, and it's just serving the interests of whomever, gets their wallet padded. It doesn't seem like you folks really care about our property values and the maintenance of our property values, because they're going to drop. It's going to drop if you put that in. You folks know it. That's all I got to say right now.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Next, we have Barry DeGerton. Try.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Barry Gerton. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. I'm a civil engineer. I have a couple degrees from the University of Florida, specialization in urban regional planning and transportation. As many people have told you, Fifth Avenue is a concern. I understand that this development's happening. I don't blame you guys for that. That's your requirement. I do think that one of the things that we ought to consider for the future is the fact that, like, Littlewood Elementary School hadn't been constructed when those plans were originally approved. We might need to look at maybe changing things so that we can consider changes in conditions for some future occasion. My real concern is actually Fifth Avenue, although I think the traffic at both ends, I've walked both ends at different times of days. There's issue with the traffic count that Mr. Wright had provided to him. It was done during the pandemic. Fifth Avenue is not going to do anything to help. And the reason why is the city of Gainesville elected to put traffic mediating activities by putting in speed mounds on the roads in the neighborhood that is going to be to the east of the project. Something which the fire department 12 really hated, because it meant when they want to get to 8th Avenue, they have to cross over those. They've gotten over it, obviously, because it's the easiest way to get through. It's going to continue to cause problems, but even a bigger problem is that we're not providing adequate access to any new directions for people in a new development. And there is no real good solution to this. 39th Road is going to have problems with queuing going backwards. The porosity of that neighborhood means that people are going to be going through the businesses rather than actually staying on the roads. They're going to go through Royal Park Cinema, cut out to where the light is there, make a left-hand turn to go onto University Avenue. They will not use the light on 39th. It won't have adequate queuing. They're going to make right-hand turns heading out east on Newberry Road by cutting through the business that's immediately to the west of 39th Road. It's going to be a problem in every direction, and I don't think that this is something that you guys are responsible for, but I think we need to maybe reconsider our structure of approval for things by right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Gavidia. All the names tonight.
Welcome.
Hi, my name's Lisa Gavidia, and I actually live at the corner of 36th Drive and 5th Avenue. So I have to say, I'm the one that's going to get the traffic the most, because that's the driveway they're going to tear up. And I've been using that driveway, well, that driveway's been used for years to park behind the dwelling. I will not have access to the backyard any longer, parking my car there, because there's going to be a road there, and I assume there's probably going to be a curb there. Did not know that that was going to happen, so that's a little bit of a for me. Just want to backtrack. The couple that started early this evening started with, we'd like to see you guys do this right. And Mr. Calderon said that it'll become final sometime next week. The way this is being done is going to leave your legacy. The way Gainesville is being developed right now is your legacy. Regardless of what we have to say back here as the citizens, everything is reflected on you guys. So to push this through and make everything happen, whether or not you're all unified or what, however it goes down, this is your legacy. And at this point, I can't say that I'd be very proud to be sitting up there with you guys. I do feel like there is a way for you to redeem yourselves. I think that everybody here would appreciate that if you would slow this down, halt a minute, do some traffic studies. I think that's what most of us are looking for. And if you were to slow down and do the traffic studies, whether or not they prove that they're going to benefit our community or it's going to worsen our community, whether it comes out in our favor or the developer's favor, just the simple fact that you guys slowed everything down and did that for us, for the community, for the people, the citizens that you guys represent. Listen to us. Hear us. Please don't let this fall on your deaf ears. We hope that you will take our concerns to heart and show us that you care. The last thing I'd like to mention, since I only have a second here, is nobody's considered the horizon. My backyard is those woods. And everybody on that side of the street, their backyard is those woods. I look at those trees every day, and I listen to those woods every day. Things that are living there and making their little woodsy noises greet me every day, and they lull me to sleep every night. I'm going to lose that. Not only am I going to lose the sounds, but I'm going to lose the horizon. I'm going to lose that beautiful landscape. Nothing's been presented to us or to me. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to be looking at, and the fear of the unknown is unsettling.
Thank
Am
you.
I going to be looking at a wall? Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Wilbur Holloway?
Welcome.
Good evening. I've grown up in Gainesville. I was born here in 1961. I ride mountain bikes in and around those woods. This is completely inappropriate. It is so wet back there. It's crazy. And I'd like to encourage all of you people to sue the city of Gainesville when your homes flood, because that's what's going to happen. Citizens, 4 of the 5 folks sitting up there are vacating their offices in August. 2 of them are running for mayor. Mr. Ward, Mr. Areola. I'd like for you to remember that. This is ridiculous. If you go through with this, with what you're planning, I hope future commissions drop a house on you like they did with Miss Gulch. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the last caller we have signed up in the chambers.
Okay. So online, did that
Yes, that included the online.
include the online? Okay. Adam, let's go over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It looks like we have one person at this time, Ms. Julie Garrett. Ms. Garrett, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Julie Garrett. I live on Northwest 35th Terrace, 2 houses up from Northwest 5th Avenue, and I'm really appalled about this development. I actually just heard about it. I believe this project will negatively impact the quality of life of every person living in the surrounding neighborhood. And I feel that you have put one business and one development over the rights of all the people, over the rights of all the property owners and people living in the surrounding neighborhoods. You did this without providing good information, without well-publicized opportunities for input, and with, it sounds like, old traffic studies and just, outdated information. And I feel like you have engaged in a non-democratic process, and I wonder why you did this. Is infill so important and increasing the city's tax base so important that you can turn your back on a more democratic process? So I'm begging you to please slow down, do a new traffic study, take into consideration the concerns stated by the residents here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. We have one person on the line who said they were just listening in. Mr. Mayor, if you've got somebody else out there to speak, we'll screen him one more time. But
Madam Clerk,
otherwise,
anybody else?
floor is yours.
Okay, I think we're good here. Adam, so if that person's just listening, they can continue to stay on. All right, so thank you all for sharing your thoughts, and I think there were some constructive ideas in there for the developer, and we'll give him an opportunity. I think some of these questions are best answered by he or his team, because they more have to do with the interior design of the project, and then some I'll direct towards our folks. So the first thing that came up a few times is the notion that this is being built in a floodplain, and will not be able to accommodate the stormwater, that the stormwater runoff will negatively affect some of the surrounding properties. So there were several comments sort of in that range. I don't know who is best prepared to answer that question, either from our staff or the developer. I know you have the plan up there that has the stormwater retention, but I don't know. I'll start with you, Andrew, if you want to address that, or maybe ask somebody on your staff to.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I have Gail Mowry from Public Works, the stormwater engineer, who could answer any questions from the city side. But I think it's also good to hear from the developer.
Okay, great. So, okay, we'll ask the developer to come up first, I guess, and then Gail can fill in anything that you don't mention. And if you'll just introduce yourself for everybody.
Yes, my name is Steve Herman, and I'm with Banyan Development Group. Banyan Development Group.
How do you spell that?
I'm sorry, sir, for the interruptions.
With the question on the stormwater, we've actually increased the amount of area and the amount of stormwater that can be held on site. So in reality, we're holding more than what is currently being held under its current status, because we've actually made larger ponds and holding areas that will take on much of the water that is in the area. Plus, we actually will be reducing currently where the floodplain lines are right now with the work that's going to be done.
Okay, thank you. Anybody from Public Works want to add anything to that?
Yes, Commissioner. This is Gail Maury with Public Works Stormwater. So I just wanted to kind of give a brief overview of what we're looking for when we develop this site and what's required under code. The obvious thing being water quality. Everyone's familiar with that. And then we talk about level of service, and that's for the quantity. So a site, when it's developed, cannot discharge more in the post condition than it can in the pre condition. So for this particular site, their retention pond does retain 100% of the additional runoff generated from the impervious that they're placing on the developed area. And then they also have the roadway that goes out to 39th that has an underground system that's being placed in the road. Another thing that we look at also is floodplain. There is extensive floodplain out there. It's an A zone, which means that there's no elevation determined. It's community determined. And they have been given a community determined base flood elevation. So from that point, what they do is they look at, from the development of the site, how much fill do they have on the site? We require a cup for cup. Basically, if you fill a cup, you have to provide a cup of floodplain compensation. And thank you, Lawrence, for putting that plan up. So you can see right next to the wetland area, this is where they provided their floodplain compensation. And a lot of the floodplain is actually driven from up north. There's some significant drainage basins that come down from the north and pass through this property. There are two main conveyance channels, one along the northern edge of the property. And Lawrence, I don't know if you can use a mouse to maybe, thank you, kind of run your mouse along the line, the northern channel there along the northern part of the basin. And then it curves around and goes down to the south towards University. And then there is another channel located on the south side. And it basically directs water from west to east along the south property line. So they have so far, just to clarify, for the stormwater, we are still working out some of the details for stormwater. The water quality and quantity for the site development itself has met the requirements. We just worked out all of the floodplain compensation and what they needed to do for floodplain compensation. We are still working on just some conveyance, just looking at how the conveyance on the northern ditch line and the southern ditch line, making sure we're not worsening conditions for anyone in the area. So basically, they're looking at some more detailed modeling of what's the elevation currently, and what will the elevation of the flow line be after development to make sure that we're not worsening a condition. So we have been working very closely with them on trying to get those demonstrations done. I heard Megan mention something about the buildings and the lower income buildings being built in floodplain. And I just did want to clarify also for the buildings, we do have a minimum finished floor elevation. They are required to develop the buildings or raise the buildings at least 1 foot above the base flood elevation. All of the buildings actually are more than that 1 foot. So we're not expecting any issues in particular with that aspect.
Okay, thank you, Gail, appreciate that. Okay, the next sort of category of questions that several of the neighbors brought up involved a traffic study. Mr. Wright, I think you mentioned something about that early in your comments, but if you could go into a little bit more detail about the traffic study and what the findings were from that.
Sure, and I guess maybe just up front, I did want to address something I heard a couple of the speakers say, which was that the traffic study was outdated. And I think what they were referring to was that the original traffic study did not include the access point to Fifth Avenue. So of course we had them revise the traffic study to include that. And I guess just to build on that, the distribution for this development is shown to be 46% to the east and 54 to the west. So you can, I think it's helpful to quantify these things sometimes and understand exactly how traffic's going to be leaving and coming to the site. And just to give you an idea, at a peak hour, we're looking at about 50 trips within an hour coming in and out of the site. And that would be split between the two access points, roughly in half, based on that distribution.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to get through the questions I have here. Another related question involved the proposed sidewalks on Fifth Avenue and I think 36th, if I'm remembering correctly. Would those go on existing city right-of-way? I know that on the portion of the road that has the sort of split elevation, it's a greater engineering challenge. But is there existing right-of-way? I think I at least heard one neighbor concerned about taking their property to do the sidewalks.
I believe there is existing right-of-way. I say I believe because we don't have a survey at this moment. But based on what you see out there, where
okay,
you
so
can tell sometimes.
If it is not, that would be something that would need to be negotiated, but with each neighbor, correct?
Correct. We'd have to obtain easements, and obviously we try to avoid that, wherever possible, because it is complicated, especially when you're dealing with a lot of different property owners.
Yeah. Okay. So I need everyone to again maintain those rules of civility. That traffic study, I believe, is public. It's a public record. It's publicly available, so we can forward that. If you want to leave your name or email with the clerk, we can send you that traffic study.
We have a question regarding this.
I'm answering the question, which is if you want to see the traffic study that Mr. Wright just quoted, we can send that to you. Through the traffic study. Okay, y'all, I can't have y'all yelling out at me. If that's going to be the way that we're going to have this meeting. Y'all, I'm just letting you know, if you're going to yell out, then I'm going to adjourn this meeting. If you're going to yell out, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. All right? I'm trying to interact, but I can't have people yelling out at the commission. The numbers that he just quoted came from the traffic study. And so if you want to see the traffic study, that is a public document, and we can forward that to you. Mr. Wright, I don't know how much more detail you can go into. If you can give us a high-level methodology of the study.
I mean, I guess there's a pretty standard approach to traffic studies. You're looking at, the quantity of trips first, which is done through a trip generation. There's standard practices that you follow to figure out how many trips each development will create. There's, books that are based on studies that have been done all over the country that tell you a typical apartment is going to generate this many trips, for example. And so that's what that's all based on. And then once you know the number of trips, then there's what's called a distribution, and that just shows how trips are going to leave the site and then flow onto the roadway system.
So these are using industry adopted standard practices.
Correct. And what we're looking for as staff, just in terms of potential impacts, is we're looking at roadway segments and the capacity of traffic that those roadways can handle. And then we're also looking at intersections, signals, turn lanes, all of those things, just to make sure that no problems will be tripped by the additional development.
Okay, thank you. One of the speakers talked about State Road 26 connection. Again, this is not something that is under the city's discretion, and the Florida Department of Transportation has not shown an interest in allowing that connection. The bike ped improvements and safety on Fifth Avenue, I think, were addressed. That will have to be something that is worked out collaboratively between our city staff. I mean, the good thing about those roads is they are city roads, so the city does have control over how those get redesigned and that process. And so that'll be a process that we'll sit down with the neighborhood and look at what our possibilities are, and then what works within those two context areas. So that will be forthcoming. And then, I think, again, when we have that discussion, the right turn only on 39th can be something that staff discusses with the neighborhood. So I'll sort of separate those two out. There's a question about whether the floodplain was included in the density calculation. So basically you have an allowable number of units per acre. And does that use the overall property or?
It does, Mr. Mayor. We calculate the allowable density based on the total land area, inclusive of any areas that are not developable. Because typically when you have environmentally sensitive resources on the site, we're trying to encourage preservation of those. And so you get essentially clustering of development away from those resources, which is evidenced here with this development.
Okay, thank you. Another question came up about the city engineer signing off on the road access. Do we have any comment on that?
Good evening, Brian Singleton, City Engineer, Acting Public Works Director. Yes, the Florida Housing Corporation, a lender for the project, requires verification for the proper zoning, access to public roadway, and access to public utilities. So the development review engineer at that time signed off on the access to public roadways.
Okay, and what are the base criteria for doing so?
As long as the property has frontage to a public right-of-way, then there's access to the public roadway.
Okay, and so would both 5th and 39th have qualified that?
Correct. Since the property fronts a portion of 39th Road and a portion of 5th Avenue, then it has legal access to those roadways.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me? That's very subjective.
Okay, I did, that's the answer. So I can't be, I'm just getting the answer for you.
400 bedrooms. Did they know that it was 400 bedrooms?
I can't speak to that. There's another development, a rumor of a development at the top. Okay, one more outburst, and I mean, I can't have folks yelling. That's just, we can't have that. The question was answered. I think it was an objective answer. So, yes, it was answered. The criteria. That was what, a request from one of the neighbors that there be a no right turn on 39th. That is not something in our plan right now. That would have to be something negotiated between our staff and the neighborhood at a later date. As far as the criteria for signing off, I think the Public Works Director was pretty clear that if it fronts public access, which both 5th and 39th qualify as, then it meets the requirements. There was a rumor about another development at the top of the hill besides this one. Does anybody know anything about another proposed development at the top of the hill other than this one?
Mr. Mayor, I do not. I don't know if any of the other staff on the line, are aware of anything, but I'm not aware of any proposed development in that location at this point.
Okay, thank you. Probably best for the developer. Is this project a 10% unit affordable development, or is it 100% unit affordable, or something in between?
Yes, sir. It's 100% affordable.
Okay, thank you.
More questions for me?
There was a comment that there were no neighborhood meetings or workshops for this. Mr. Persons, is that correct, or were there any previous neighborhood workshops that were noticed and held?
Mr. Mayor, as you know, there is a requirement in the city's code for the developer to hold a neighborhood workshop. When application is made for development review, the code requires that the developer provide evidence of that workshop. That is in the record of the development application, including minutes from the meeting, as well as the advertisement that was put in the paper and the notice that was sent out. As you know, this is something that we hear fairly regularly, and obviously any sort of notice in the mail is a complicated process that we do our best, as city staff, to ensure that everybody is adequately noticed. But in this case, we feel that it is. There's a solid record that the developer met the code with respect to the neighborhood workshop.
And on what date was that original neighborhood workshop held?
That I don't know off the top of my head. Perhaps Mr. Calderon has that available.
But half the people did not get.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, I think this came up last time that some folks that felt like they lived within 400 feet were not notified, that felt they should have been, and I think we were going to follow up to, because I think we have a way of validating that or not, whether.
I didn't get this.
Good, Andrew, do we have a list of who we mailed to, basically?
Yes, we do, and that's I think was provided to several members of the public as well.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make just one comment, please? Because that was my question when I came here tonight. So I've sent multiple emails to you guys with all of you copied, and there is a label list which the city provided for them to notify us. The label list has my address, and the sending list does not. And I want the developer to tell me why I have never gotten a notice.
Okay.
I can step over my fence and be on the property.
I understand, and I that's not something that that's not information that any of us up here have access to.
So,
but I can
also want the city to answer those emails, because I've copied you on the mayor call. You've seen those emails. I want to know why the permitting process could move forward without proof that they notified us. It's a simple question.
That's a process.
Okay.
You're right, it violates ordinance, and they did.
I can neither believe or not believe you. I don't send out the letters, right?
I've asked for documentation multiple times, and the city has not provided it.
Okay.
I've asked for multiple times since November.
I do not.
And you're copied on those emails. So
I do not know who can validate that or not. So I'll ask the developer and Mr. Persons to provide a list of documentation of who was contacted, what list was used, and on what date.
We pay property taxes for representation.
Why do the developer has to do that? That should be your responsibility.
We We also had a question about who would be responsible for signal improvements on 39th Road. I don't know if that's Mr. Person's question or somebody else's, but who ultimately, is that a state controlled signal, or is that something the city can do without working through the state FDOT?
The city actually controls that signal. And we've already talked to our traffic operations folks about those modifications.
Okay, thank you.
Just looked at the addresses that were posted here. Many of the addresses are not in the neighborhood.
The list could be more expansive than just the neighborhood, if people have asked to be on the list.
I live in the neighborhood and I wasn't notified.
Okay, again, I cannot speak to that one way or another.
How many were notified?
Commissioner Hey Santos.
Not notified. Not notified? Not notified. You know why this got to me? Because it was already done deal. That's the only reason.
No, sir, that's absolutely not the case. That's,
So you see 60% of us.
okay, I'm gonna,
Why did the developer have the responsibility?
okay, so I've heard the word done deal many times. There are two paths for development in our city. The vast majority of them do not come before the commission. We have an extensive land development code that says what you can build, where you can build it, and that is how every city operates. And it is done through a very long and rigorous process. It is when a developer wants to do something with a piece of property that is not currently allowed that they go through a process to get an amendment to our land development code to change it. And that is what does come before the commission. This is not one of those developments. In this case, the property owner, the developer, is following all of the rules set forth by the city. And so we chose to have this workshop with you at your request so the developer can hear your concerns and try to incorporate those into their development plan. We as a commission have no legal authority whatsoever to intervene and tell them what to do. We just simply do not. And that's why at the beginning I stated that, what the limits of this meeting were and what the limits of our power, because even if we wished it so, it would not be so. All right, and so I tried to get your questions answered. It doesn't mean that you're satisfied with those answers, but I went through all of the questions that I heard and we tried to answer them the best we could. All right, so with that, Commissioner Hey Santos, I will recognize you.
Thank you, Mayor. So just on, we notify people who are within 400 feet, property owners and renters, if you're 400 feet of the parcel line. I would say if you felt like you were in that area, if you can give your name and an address and maybe email number to the clerk, and then we can get that to our city staff and they can look into it.
I've made you guys aware of this for months that I was not notified. I have been paying property taxes in that neighborhood.
So, and I forwarded that to our clerk's office, who is.
You're following process for this development and for permitting it with a straight face.
This is not gonna get us anywhere by shouting at one another.
So what do we pay for with property tax then?
I would say these fine police officers that are protecting us tonight. I would say the roads that will allow you to get home safely. I would say the fire department that will answer a call in an emergency. I would say the parks that exist within a short walking distance of your house. All of those are what your property taxes are going towards. Commissioner Duncan Walker. I'm sorry, Commissioner Hey Santos, I thought you'd finished. Okay, thank you. We've turned back to the commission now. Commissioner Hey Santos.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. On the 39th Road traffic in Newberry timing, I think that's Mr. Wright, you said that that's been an issue for a long time. I guess if we get a memo back on if there's any changes being made to that to make that a more efficient light. I do want to touch on the.
I don't even know how they're going to get out to 39th Road. I mean, is
Okay, y'all, I cannot, we cannot do the yelling. We just can't do the yelling. So this is the last time I'm gonna ask you to just show some civility, and otherwise I'm just gonna adjourn the meeting. We can't have call-outs. I'm just gonna adjourn the meeting if we can't exhibit basic civility. Commissioner Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for coming and sharing your thoughts. I think there's one thing that is missing. It's not really reported in the papers and kind of where we are in terms of housing. Last year, we grew by the largest amount in the history of our community. 6,000 new people are here that weren't here a year ago. That's a lot. We are the fourth fastest growing city, over 100,000 people in Florida. Over the next 10 years, 60,000 new people are going to move here, and most likely more because of the climate change. I saw new studies that came out yesterday. They're expecting 1.5 foot sea level raise on the Gulf and 1 foot on the Atlantic. There's going to be probably more than the 6,000 people moving here because of that. Just to keep track of where we are and number of housing, we have to build 24,000 homes in the next 10 years to just meet that demand. That's keeping prices where we are. I mean, that's the gravity of kind of where we are. I don't think it's lost. 24,000 homes have to get built to meet the amount of people who are moving here. That's a lot. That's every single year, or over those next 10 years that have to get built. It's not going to.
Somehow I lost.
In the last year, if you were an owner of an average home in Gainesville, you made more money with appreciation of your home. And I'm a homeowner. I did the same thing. More money than the average worker made working for a full year. Average worker makes $37,000. If you owned a home, your property most likely appreciated more than that.
Order, please.
Someone brought up the property values decreasing, and so I'm saying that they've been increasing of late.
Order, please.
And to the point of 100% affordable housing, and this is 100% affordable housing. These are people who did not get that $35,000, $40,000 appreciation in their home because they don't own homes, and they need homes. This is for people who can't afford. They have to have it subsidized. They can't afford renting on the market. We have to have places for people to live. I know it's difficult, but we have to look at how can we make sure that everyone has a home. Because we hear like, oh, we should delay and stuff like that, but every day we delay is a day that someone won't have a home. And when we're looking at things, and the commission can't make a decision on this project, but I hope when you think about this, that's one of the big things is where are we going to put all these people? Because they're coming.
Sir, I just need the outburst to stop. Thank you.
I am more than welcome for more neighbors. I think more neighbors are good. So I'm probably not the best person to direct that towards. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Duncan Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to start by saying both thank you to the people who are here, and I also want to offer an apology. And there's a reason that I'd like to offer the apology. First of all, I can relate to where you're coming from. And it's very hard for me to sit here in this position tonight and hear all of your concerns that are legitimate. And they're legitimate, I think, for several reasons, but if I had to sum them up with just one, it is because I believe that everyone wants to be happy where they live. This particular situation closely resembles a situation that I involved myself in before I came to the commission, without having any knowledge at that point that I would find myself on the commission. Yet it was why I chose to sit here. And as I listen to your concerns and I realize what the developer has a right to do, my concerns now turn to what our rules allow. And perhaps that's where we can do some work. I believe that we can always pay more attention to how we value existing communities and our existing neighbors. And yes, we will be growing, but there's much to be said about our neighbors who deserve a certain quality of life where they've been living for generations and want to see future generations continue to live. I have a question for the developer. And I'm sorry, if you would remind me of your name, sir.
Excuse me?
If you would remind me of your name, please.
Scott Zimmerman.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Zimmerman. Mr. Zimmerman, I wonder if at any point during this process you ever considered a community benefits agreement. Had that been something that ever came to your mind, or would it at some point be something that you would ever consider?
I didn't understand what you were asking.
A community benefits agreement.
Don't know
Is
what
that
that
something
is.
that you don't know what that is?
No.
Okay. Well, once again, I think that's where we can do some work. And thank you for being that honest, Mr. Zimmerman. To give you,
We always do try to work with the community and listen to their concerns. It was
I
It was
understand.
heartening to hear some of the concerns, and some of them, we certainly will work with the city to try to minimize or satisfy however we can. So we're,
Absolutely, and thank you for that.
Thank
But if I may, just for a moment, read this to you because I believe it's important for us all to hear in this room, and hopefully as we move forward as a commission and consider how we may reframe things so that we don't have to keep hearing this from our neighbors, because we were just in this same predicament a few weeks ago, and we will continuously find ourselves here. But there are a few tools that we might consider as we move forward, and a community benefits agreement might be something that we look at to encourage our developers as they come in to create meaningful experiences that actually engage our community in a way that's very real and tangible. So a community benefits agreement is this: before a major development project breaks ground in an urban setting, local stakeholders have an interest in shaping the project's impacts and opportunities. People living in these urban neighborhoods are often subject to negative impacts of large urban development projects, but have only limited access to new economic opportunities. I'm going to jump down to what it is I really need to find. The whole point is this: that the community is engaged in a meaningful way to avoid situations like what we're experiencing tonight. So in other words, you would hear from them at the very beginning about their issues. You would hear from them about the flooding issues. You would hear from them about et cetera, and you would actually enter into an agreement where you would say, I hear you. Now, some of these things I can accommodate, but some of them I can't. But you'd negotiate, in other words, with the community. I think that's probably an instrument that we as a commission might want to entertain moving forward, because it's important for us to consider the relationships between builders and communities and the city. For me, it's incredibly uncomfortable. And I know if it's uncomfortable for me, it's 1,000 times more uncomfortable for you. But it's uncomfortable sitting here watching you plead for your community to remain a certain way. I literally something has happened in my stomach in here tonight. It happens every single time. And I want us to find a way that we can, as best we can, avoid these types of situations moving forward. I heard the civil engineer say something a little earlier that I really appreciated as well. And that was that we consider reformatting the structure of the approval of things by right. So at the end of the day, what I am saying to my colleagues is that as we consider how Gainesville, yes, is going to grow over the years, that we do not forget our existing community members and that we meaningfully work towards ways that different mechanisms, be their community benefits agreements or whatever the case may be, restructuring how we approve things by right, that we begin to be very intentional about that. Because these workshops like this need to be meaningful. They need to come out with something that is going to be beneficial to everybody involved. I don't want to keep having meetings like this. Of course, things are always going to be challenging. But at the end of the day, I want communities to be able to walk away with something. And so I know that the developer has heard all of these concerns. Mr. Zimmerman, thank you for listening. My prayer is that at some point, you will be able to accommodate this community in some very meaningful ways, however you can do that. My prayer is also that this commission in the near future, and perhaps I'll agenda it, that we take a look at the way we craft policy and how development takes place here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just wanted to follow up on a couple things that I heard just a few minutes ago and make a comment about something I'll be doing in the not too distant future. First, I heard a question of how do people get from the property onto 39th Road? Part of the property is a driveway that goes to 39th Road. That's on the map. It is, could we put the map back up?
How many feet from the traffic?
Ma'am,
No outbursts, please.
There is a driveway that goes onto 39th Road. That's the answer to the question. I don't know how to. I'm not sure how to better answer it than that. That's how. And the other thing that I'll be glad to talk with you after the meeting about any questions you have, and I may or may not be able to answer them. That was the question about how they get to 39th Road. That's how. The next thing I'll address is a thing that has come up a lot over several years. Yes, that's it. Yes, thank you. That's it. Ma'am, that's the road. You asked the question and I answered
All
the
right.
question.
Commissioner Ward,
So,
please
yes.
go on with your comments.
I'm going to, in the near future, be moving that we require certified proof that letters go out. This has come up many times. It seems like a simple answer. It's not going to add that much to the cost. It seems simple to me. And then, sir, talk to me afterwards, please. A certified letter goes out instead of just a letter. That is going to be my motion at a time I can make a motion. I can't do it tonight. It won't fix your problem, but it might keep this from happening in the future. And frankly, I don't think it's going to change much, but I'm going to do that because I think it matters. And then we can say, did you send a letter? Show us the proof you sent the letter. It makes it very simple at that point. That's a thing that I think we can do that puts the onus on whoever wants to make the change to prove that they actually notified folks. I do want to let you know as well, and this is not something I want to say and not something you're going to want to hear, but we live in Florida, and Florida law is pretty much always bends to the benefit of the person who wants to do something different with the property they own. That's part of living in Florida. And we can like that or not like that, but that's a reality of this state. And generally speaking, if we're the ones who own the property, we like it when that happens. If we don't, if we're not the owner, then we wish it weren't that way. But that's part of living in Florida. We're not New York, we're not California, and there are limitations on property rights and what municipalities can do with those property rights. that impact exactly what you're looking at here. That's the truth of it. I'm happy to talk with anybody after the meeting, but that's what I can offer you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I hope that some of your questions got answered. I know that some of you are still frustrated, and I think that was unfortunately going to be the outcome because of the nature of this project and what ability we have to do anything different about it. We will be reaching out to the neighbors to talk more about the Fifth Avenue potential improvements, the 39th signal, and some of those other things that are under our control. Hopefully the developer listens to your input as well in trying to make sure the project aligns with the existing neighborhood as well, so the new neighbors are able to seamlessly sort of integrate into their new homes. That is their only item. Do we have any member comment tonight?
We'll run.
Okay, we will then stand adjourned. Thank you all.